everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Bitchuation Room Podcast Live. I am your host, Francesca Fiorentini. Welcome, one and all. It's been a minute. I'm so excited to have you here. With me today is the one and only Matt Lieb.
Hi.
He is here. He was not scheduled to be here.
Nope.
Nor did I have a cancellation.
Nope.
Instead, Matt is here, and he will scurry away after we are done talking about
like a little rat.
What I am bitching about. But and I'll give a preamble. But sometimes Matt and I have we got some great hallway conversations in our home, and this was one of them. And I was like, you know what, Matt, we're gonna talk about Gaza a little bit. I want to bitch about something. Get in here. He had time. It all worked out. We happened to be married, which was just like really serendipitous.
Yeah. Good thing we're already married. Otherwise, it'd be weird.
Otherwise, it'd be hard. It'd be like, what are you doing in my home?
Right.
Why are we in a hallway?
Exactly. And I'd be like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm not even married.
How did I get here?
How did I get here? This is not my beautiful wife.
This is not my discussion about the Israeli ceasefire. No, you didn't have to add that last part. The point is, we will also have comedian River Butcher with me in a little bit. We're going to talk about how ICE is out their goddamn minds. We're also going to be talking about a possible maybe win in Maine when it comes to protecting transgender people there, when it comes to protecting trans athletes. And, we'll see. TBD, but there seems to be a small victory for the moment. Then we're going to be joined by a union organizer and now author of a new book called Get on the Job and Organize. Jaz Brisack is back. They've been here talking about their work organizing Starbucks, one of the first franchises to actually build an organizing drive. Jaz was part of that, was then in retaliation fired from their job. And so Jaz is still organizing and now has a book out. So we're going to talk to them all about that. Very, very excited about this. So what are you doing right now? What you're doing is you're palming the keyboard. You're clicking the buttons. You're liking the stream. You're sharing the stream. You're giving this podcast 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts.
On Overcast, on SoundCloud.
Is that still a thing?
Yeah, those are all things.
SoundCloud.
I don't think you're on SoundCloud.
I don't think I'm on SoundCloud either. And I still haven't figured out how to stream directly to Substack. But, that's one can dream. frannyfio.substack.com. We are on there. And if you are a paid member of Substack, if you're a paid member on YouTube, or my personal preference, a patron at patreon.com/bitchuationroom, you get access to those Wednesday bonus episodes. Always a good time. I think tomorrow we will likely dig into the Trump budget bill, the tax cuts, what all this means for Medicaid. AOC broke it down the other day. So on and on and on. We're gonna be getting to it. I know we're a little bit fuzzy over here. I think we left for a week and our internet.
Yeah, our internet decided to be mean to us. I don't fully understand why. But as long as we still look good, I guess that's all that matters.
I mean, we look good now because we're like fuzzy, but it doesn't. If you're listening as a podcast, you don't care, and it doesn't matter.
That's right.
The point is thus. The other announcement I had to make is on Friday, May 30th, we're going to be live. The Bitchuation Room is live, and what I love about live Bitchuation Rooms is that they always bring together dope elected officials, awesome comedians, as well as analysts and thinkers and policy people, and pundits like John Idarola, like Eunices Hernandez, council member in Los Angeles, like Matt Lieb. We're going to be live at the Elysian Theater on Friday, May 30th. Get your tickets. Come out, support us. We're going to be talking about Los Angeles post-fire, pre-Olympics, pre-World Cup. This city is lost their goddamn mind a little bit. Like half of all the B-list celebrities were like, we gotta chase homeless people down and kill them because they did the fires.
They did fires.
And then everyone
got
else
together and said, hey, let's summon the Santa Ana winds.
Yep.
You know how homeless people be sorcerers.
I mean, eventually, right? That's when you live on the street, you become magic.
That's right.
No, and we're going to talk obviously about the rest of us who are just like, can I afford to live here? Yeah. Could I just live basically?
Yeah.
So, because we are all very close to being said homeless person.
That's right.
So it's going to be such a good show. Eunices has been on this program before when she was running. Now she's been in office. So excited to get her insights. Also, sorry, I forgot to mention Rachel Reyes of the LA Podcast, which is an excellent podcast if you're interested in LA politics. She's going to be on. I really appreciate her analysis. She's a lifelong community organizer. So it's going to be lit. Also, someone from the Rent Brigade is going to be by. The Rent Brigade has been single-handedly blowing the whistle on predatory landlords and realtors that have been jacking up prices on Angelenos since the fires. They have like hotlines and tip lines, and they are organizing in the city to make sure that people are not being price gouged for rent in the wake of the fires. So really excited to have somebody on as well. You can get your tickets wherever you're listening or watching. But first, God, there's so much to talk about. Let's just get into it. Everybody, get your bitch caps on. This is What Are You Bitching About? Before we get into what you're bitching about briefly, I just want to say thank you to anyone and everyone who came out to Cobb's Comedy on Wednesday, May 7th. Matt was there, obviously. We co-headlined. This was our show. We had 350 people on a Wednesday at Cobb's. Shout out especially to May Money and to Lonnie, who hung with me in the green room. We talked shit.
Ate some birthday cake,
which was pretty much the only thing I ate that night. It was such a lovely night. We had such a great show, and there will be more co-headlining shows from Matt and I, dates to be released very, very shortly. Obviously, May 21st, we're going to be at in Pasadena for my monthly show, New World Disorder. So, if you're in the Pasadena area or in Los Angeles, come through. But let's get into it. I wanted to bring you into what I'm bitching about, Matt Lieb.
You literally brought me into it in the hallway earlier.
Yes.
And we were both doing some bitching.
Matt is the co-host of the Bad Hasbara podcast, the world's most moral podcast.
That's right.
That looks at Israeli propaganda, throughout, but during this ongoing genocide. And there's something that I'm bitching about more very specifically because we're in a moment where it seems like Trump and his administration and the real novice nature with which they're approaching and the very deal making, i.e., what money can you give me? What can I squeeze out of this nature? Right. That the Trump administration, conducts itself might result in a deal with Hamas.
Right. Might accidentally do some good.
Do some good. In fact, the only American male soldier that was being held by Hamas was released this week. Tell me his name again.
His name was Idan Alexander, born in Israel, moved to the United States as a baby, and volunteered for the IDF. He was guarding a post at the border of Gaza when he was, he was kidnapped or he was taken captive by Hamas on October 7th and has been in their custody for 19 months now.
Right. Yeah. So he was released, but there still is there's no ceasefire. Hamas is ready for a ceasefire. Israel says, Netanyahu says, we could do these negotiations, but we're not going to be ceasing fire while we do them.
Right.
It's unclear what those negotiations are even going to look like. Here's what I'm bitching about, Matt, is that I think there is so much desperation to try to give Donald Trump a win. In the same way that you applaud someone for wiping their own ass, because he is such a feckless idiot.
It's like when we literally applaud our child when she uses the potty now.
Yes, which is, an insult to our child, who I think has far more empathy and understanding than Donald Trump and his lackeys. But my problem is the way that certain folks on the left, or people, actually, I wouldn't even call leftists, just centrists sometimes, bend over backwards to try and give Trump credit for shit that, number one, still has yet to play out. Because mind you, Israel has not agreed to shit right now. They have not stopped the bombing campaigns. They've not stopped the murder, nor has Donald Trump actually used the leverage of withholding weapons, in order to bring Israel to the table, because the United States has had unilateral conversations with Iran now, with the Houthis, with Hamas, but none of them have involved Israel. And so I'm not trying to say like, we shouldn't stop the killing. I'm saying this dude is a fucking fascist who absolutely wants a Trump Tower
in Gaza.
And we would be idiots before you actually see the proof in the pudding to give him credit. But I do accept that the really ad hoc nature of this administration is leading to some things like, sitting down with Hamas, sure, whatever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so my thoughts on it, I completely understand the impetus to give Trump credit for anything. And here's the thing, credit when anything happens in terms of a ceasefire is due. There's in no world would it be fair or charitable to be like, nah, he still doesn't get credit. If he gets a ceasefire, he gets a ceasefire.
Which he did, which thanks to Steve Witkoff.
Yes, they were able to get a brief ceasefire that, of course, Israel, violated and then started up the war again. But that was something. And for, I fully give credit to any day, even a day of ceasefire is a day in which another Palestinian isn't being murdered in a genocide. My issue is that people are seeming to repeat the mistakes of, the last 18 months when it came to the Biden administration for the same reasons, which is like a lot of the times it's like a partisan thing where you go like, well, Biden says he's working tirelessly for a ceasefire. He must be doing it. We found out, of course, he wasn't doing it. And when it comes to Trump, I think people hold out hope because at the very least, like Netanyahu and Israel made Biden look like such a fool that at the very least, on a very like ego level, you're like, love him or hate him, Trump is not going to allow himself to look like a fool for Israel. The problem is that in order to remedy that, he's going to do a lot of the same things that Biden did, except for instead of trying to look like empathetic and sad, he's trying to look tough and smart and someone who's going to, take action unilaterally. I'm going to negotiate this deal with Hamas that gets out Idan Alexander.
Unless Israel offers me a $500 million plane like Qatar offered Trump. And right now, Doha likes to be a go-between between Hamas, Israel, and the United States. And so it seems like Israel is sending negotiators to Doha right now. And like you could say that has nothing to do with a fucking $400 million luxury airliner that was just given to Trump. I'm pretty sure it had something to do with it.
Absolutely. But I think more to the point, like one thing that Trump proves by doing this deal with Hamas that gets out Idan Alexander is that all of the talk about like, well, what can I do that Biden was doing and that Trump has also continued to do since the violation of the ceasefire that they first got in January is bullshit. It's this, if you can unilaterally do a deal with the Houthis, unilaterally do a deal with Hamas to get out a Israeli-American soldier, you can unilaterally help Gaza. You can unilaterally stop the genocide. We've known this, but it's one of the things that
it means you could unilaterally do things that aren't just for your benefit, like Trump is doing. You could do things like send aid to the starving population of Gaza. No food for 2 months or water for 2 months. You could withhold weapons. And so to me, this is my problem is like, we really want to MAGA or blue MAGA. It's like you always want to give someone fucking points and someone's always got to like win on things. And for me, I'm like, just because Trump is doing this his way and trying to look tough doesn't mean we have to like, again, give him, give him all of this credit. Instead, what we should say is It is an indictment on Democrats and on Biden for not unilaterally doing some good shit. That instead, our side of the street has to be clean. And for me, instead of making common cause with fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene and people who ostensibly are anti-war but are super pro-fascist and pro-war when it comes to locking up, you know, immigrants in this country or, you know, militarizing our southern border, I'm like, you know who you could break bread with and make common cause with? Muslim Americans, Arab Americans, anti-war organizers, students, people who are being disappeared right now for writing op-eds, although Rameza Öztürk was released, thank God. But it's like, we have millions of people who are deeply anti-war and upset at what's going on that you could make common cause with.
Right.
Why you got to go make common cause with the fascists? I will suspend this by saying, if you're a lawmaker, if you're Senator Bernie Sanders,
of course,
you make the deal.
Right. This is how legislation is passed.
Right.
Yes.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying on a tactical movement level, it does not behoove us to welcome in these actual racist, anti-Semitic psychos into our fold and give them credit. Just it's like we're constantly trying to give Trump credit or give, you know, Marjorie Greene credit. I mean, and by we, I mean Cenk Uygur, but like it's so like that, it sort of like dovetails with my broader annoyance at like, we're literally living in a fascistic moment.
Right.
Trump is doing his own shit for himself, not for the Palestinians.
Right.
And nothing's been delivered.
Yes.
No ceasefire has been agreed to.
Yes.
Israel never agreed to the second stage of the ceasefire. We'll see if they're like, oh, okay, we'll be okay with not doing anything to Gaza for 5 years.
Right. And here's the thing. All of it to me is like playing into everyone's PR strategy. And this is why it's annoying to like do anything with this, like on this partisan level, is like, this is all PR strategy. If you're like getting Marjorie Taylor Greene on to, you know, talk about the things that you guys agree with, and she's like, well, I'm anti-war, but I'm pro-ICE or whatever.
Right.
And you're like, congratulations. What you're doing is giving her a PR win. That's 100% of what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, what is ICE doing? But doing the very things that are, you know, stopping people from writing op-eds and fucking, you know, in their student newspaper, or getting people deported for being pro-Palestine.
And the apartheid state that is Israel is something that the right in this country absolutely salivates over.
Yes, they love the idea because it's what they want. I mean, but in the same way, it's the same thing with Trump. The you know, this ceasefire or what the what do you call it,
negotiation.
The negotiation, this is giving credit for something. This is an indictment of, just in the same way it was an indictment of Biden and the Democrats for the fact that they could have done more and they didn't. It is an indictment of the Trump administration that he is able to unilaterally do something that benefits him when it comes to Israel, a sovereign state ostensibly, and not do things like make sure that there's aid there, force a ceasefire upon Israel and say, like, this is what you're doing,
right?
Which is something they could do.
And
this has been, you know, 18 months of pretending there's nothing they can do about that. Well, we know that they can do it. So, you know, I caution people against like preemptively giving political wins to people. Like did we not learn that after January? Remember in January when we were like, oh, damn, looks like, you know, say what you will, Trump did get the ceasefire. As soon as it was violated by Israel, the Trump administration said, well, I guess we got to kill them all. I mean, that's
I guess what put out this AI image of me enjoying, you know, cocktails on the beach.
Right. And like this, you think this guy is like actually gives a shit about Palestinians? It was like something I thought we learned then. And so like, I just caution people like falling for the PR strategy of bad actors. That's what you're doing when you're allowing yourself to be like, oh, you know, maybe Trump. No, it's the same thing with the fucking Democrats. The Democrats, you're falling for their PR strategy when you say they're working tirelessly for a ceasefire.
Can I just ask you before you go what you think?
I gotta go?
Yeah, before I kick you out of this room. You know,
you're displacing me
in
my own home.
You know, yeah.
You know, a regular Israel over here. You know, like,
it happens every day.
It does.
Slowly encroaching more and more. Actually, right, literally. But do you?
I have one closet in the whole house.
Yeah, one closet.
And I sleep in it.
Do you think that Trump is putting daylight between him and Netanyahu? Do you think he's like turning his back on him?
I have trouble fully buying into that. I understand that logic because number one, Trump doesn't like anybody, and he certainly is not going to hitch his star to anybody else. At the end of the day, he's going to throw anyone under the bus. He doesn't care. So the idea that he is actually, like trying to put daylight between him and Netanyahu is certainly like plausible. But again, I worry about what we're basing that on, because I've never known Trump to not say when he hates a guy. This idea that like, oh, secretly behind closed doors, he hates Netanyahu. I was like, when has this guy ever held his tongue about somebody? Like he can't even leave Rosie O'Donnell alone.
Well, yeah, it's a woman.
Well, that's a good point. But I'm saying, like, no, he will throw anyone under the bus. He doesn't give a fuck. It could be his lawyers. He doesn't care. So the idea that it would be holding his tongue for Israel, I kind of doubt that. I also think we do have to consider Netanyahu's perspective on things. What looks good for him in the Knesset and amongst his own base is certainly not doing a ceasefire with the Houthis and doing a deal with Hamas to get out Idan Alexander. I think I don't base this on any insider knowledge, just knowing Israeli politics. He doesn't want to be involved in that on its face. And so he is not going to be taking credit for anything that has peace.
He's going to take a step back.
He's going to take a step back, and he's going to do the thing he always does, which is, well, maybe we should start weaning ourselves off of this, American security assurances. We can do it on our own. They always pretend that they're like, oh, we don't need the United States whenever they feel in any way threatened, or whenever they feel like they need to bolster their own people, and their own psychopaths. So I would say, again, part of a PR strategy. This is one of the things we talk about a lot on our podcast, is people's Hasbara, their PR strategy. Their spin is meant to look a certain way, and it's actually doing a whole other thing. So caution against anything until the Palestine is free. I'm not going to believe a goddamn word any politician in either Israel or the United States says.
I think that's very fair, and I appreciate you coming on. I think we have to TBD. If water starts flowing, if aid trucks start arriving,
absolutely.
If there's a suspension of bombing, cool.
And these are all things he can do.
We support that,
and we support it. And if he does it, God bless him. If he does it, I would be like, I will be the first to say this is an incredible thing, because it would be. But
it shows that it can be done.
It shows it can be done.
Yep,
that's what it does. Yep. So that means more pressure. Apply more pressure to this motherfucker. And also, don't believe a word anyone says when they go on the Young Turks, and because what can you do? Like that Cenk guy.
Hey, that Cenk guy.
Yeah, I'm on your show. I'm gonna talk shit about Cenk for 20 minutes. Can I do that?
No.
Hey, Cenk.
Hey, Cenk.
Fuck you, bitch. Chunky piece of shit. I'm sorry.
Okay, go.
I'm sorry.
Time to go.
Bye.
Thank you, Matt.
All right. I'm gonna walk out the room now.
Slowly, but do it sexy. That was Matt Lieb, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking around. It was just it dovetailed with what I wanted to say. Before I bring in my next guest, I am so proud that we have a sponsor that helps me relax, get through the night. In fact, Patron Lonnie told me that she loves the relax gummies. I think they have like reishi mushroom in them. But Sunset Lake CBD, everybody, 20% off your entire order. I hope you guys are taking advantage of this. They have incredible tinctures for sleep, for relaxation, even for your pets. If you've got ailing or aging pets, they've got CBD for pets. They also have coffee and gummies. I love the Focus gummies. You guys know this. I also love the sleep gummies that have CBD, CBN, some with melatonin, some without. My personal preference are without. And also they're like really tasty. They're like a blackberry flavor. Pretty good. Anyway, sunsetlakecbd.com's coupon code FRANTIFA, 20% off your order. Thank you so much, Sunset Lake. Awesome Vermont-based company, vertically integrated craft CBD products. And with that, let me bring the Los Angeles-based stand-up comic, actor, writer, and his half-hour special, A Different Kind of Dude, is out now. And his hour-long special will be out later this year, and you can catch him on tour all summer. Please welcome River Butcher.
What's up? Good to be back.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging on.
Absolutely.
It's been, we have not spoken since, again, we elected the dumbest people possible. Somehow.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, you haven't been on the show.
I mean, I believe you, but I'm so glad to be back. It's been too long then.
There we go. It's been too long. I mean, it does feel like a lifetime that we've been in this, particular hell. And we start off our show, or continue our show, with what you're bitching about, River. What are you bitching about on this May 13th, 2025?
I mean, Francesca, the question I feel like you should be asking is, what are you not bitching about? I'm like, it's really hard to nail it down.
It's hard. Life is so good.
Actually,
I would strangle you.
There's many positive things, but that not they do not eclipse the bad. I think so there's many things I could say, but what I want to say, and I feel like it's kind of in alignment with the way you guys started the show, which thanks for all of that, by the way. I mean, it's just a pervasive idea that I feel like underlines too much of our political conversation these days, which is red state versus blue state. It really drives me crazy because I feel like it kind of it like sort of ends any conversation, and it really like I feel like it allows for people to believe that an entire state is made up of one type of thing.
Yes.
And that for me it's actually like a very convenient new way of racism and classism. But what is racism if not classism? And I just spent like the weekend in Montana, and I'm not going to act as though a weekend allows me to understand a place completely. However, it allowed me to see how wrong I was about something. I really wanted to visit there for a long time.
It's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful and so different than I really thought it was, and like Montana has abortion like codified in its constitution, and the people of that state voted for that like it's Medicaid funds can be used for it. Any physician can do it, and they did that because they're like, yeah, this is none of our business. Like the government should not be interceding in your healthcare.
Hell yeah.
I don't totally know like what the Montana trans situation is. I'm a trans person, so I'm not trying to, but there are trans people there. I think that's the thing that there are trans people everywhere. It's like liberal comics saying like the South is so stupid. Like, so you think black people in the South are stupid? Like, what, you know what I mean? Like,
well, that's the other thing that's I think really interesting is like I always try to have us think about like and I don't always apply this myself when it comes to red states, blue states, but like people are not who they are governed by,
No.
The makeup of a South Carolina is not the people who are representing South Carolina. It's not, Lindsey Graham. Right. But I very much remember that when I think about like Iran and foreign governments and but then I forget that when it's like red states and you're like, oh, well, yeah, and I do, part of me is like, I do think that if you are like at particular risk, you should go to a place where you will not be at risk. I mean, and I also think the extent to which
though is the thing.
Totally right.
Well,
exactly. It takes tons of money. But I also think that blue states are on their fucking high horse about whether their states are at risk. I mean, we're technically in a sanctuary city here in LA. ICE is raiding the shit out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Abortions are being denied to people in, I remember a story in New York, upstate, where a woman not denied an abortion, but denied her meds because she was of reproductive age and possibly it could affect a fetus she wasn't carrying. And you're just like, what? So yeah, the extent to which blue states often are like, well, we're fine over here. That's also a lie.
100%.
So I love that.
That's what I mean. It's just kind of like, I need to consistently be opening my mind to possibility, you know, and opening my good and bad possibility, you know. So I notice a lot of comedians do that, you know, and so it's just something that, yeah, drives me nuts.
Comedians do what? Do like red state, blue state stuff?
Yeah, red state versus blue state stuff, you know, and
right, and then they got a tour in the red states, and they're like, damn,
exactly, or they don't. You know what I mean?
Don't.
They like don't do that. Like I just did shows in Montana. You know what I mean? And like. I have white privilege. I'm a white person. So I try to use that to as best I can to, you know, to be going into places and talking about these things, you know, and not being afraid of it. But I think it's, you know, it gets me back to sort of like boycotting a state. Like you can't really boycott like a single entity, a single person. You can't like boycott a state. And really, what does that mean? You're just not going there, you know? And so I'm also not saying like, hey, go to places that are unsafe for you. But I think we have to continuously maybe do that. Like as
well, I definitely think everyone should move back to where they're maybe originally from.
I mean, maybe, you know,
just
what I mean?
To vote
like,
there.
Yeah. It might be a good idea. I don't know, you know, I don't know.
First of all, when I was in Montana, I went into a store, and this was the most like Angelino thing. I was in Montana. Yeah. Was I? Oh, or I was in Wisconsin. I was in Madison. Never mind, different thing. But I was in Bozeman one time. And those are very different places. But I like went into like a rock store, a crystal store. And I was like, this crystal's only $8. I got to bring it back. It only weighs 15 pounds. That was just very LA basic bitch of me.
Absolutely.
Look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the news. There's 2 stories we're going to get into. This is the week where. So last week was really a dark week, and I had not been able to discuss this fully, River, but ICE is absolutely out of their minds. Workplaces are being raided. We've seen, obviously, ICE picks taken to cars to, arrest people, detain people. Agents, and this is more specifically in Massachusetts, in Worcester, Massachusetts, arrested a grandmother who was with her 16-year-old daughter, another family member, and the daughter's newborn baby. So a tiny baby. And these scenes are so disturbing, and there's so many of them. And I just want to play a little bit of this. The other thing I think is important to know is that ICE is now masking. You know, like a body that doesn't want to be held accountable, like some sort of secret police. And this is just one of the things that happened last week. But let's take a look at this woman. This young 16-year-old is being chased down. She's trying to stop her mother from being taken. And there's 3 police. So local police also are working with ICE on this. You see her family member holding a baby. She's being pushed to the ground again, face on the ground. And then we cut away to a picture of her grandmother or her mother, excuse me, who is being taken away there. She is of Brazilian descent. We don't know too much more about her story, but those things are coming out. So like, this is the type of like absolute cruelty and brutality with which ICE is operating. These people are not threats. I have a new video on Zateo where I'm just like, River, do you remember like when we were like, let's abolish ICE?
Oh yeah.
What the fuck happened to abolish ICE?
Yeah. Well,
we need to abolish ICE.
100%. It's fascism, and it's been fascism, and it's never not been fascism. You know, I really believe that these people are deranged by the power that they've been given. A lot of these people are contractors. They're not, you know what I mean? Like it's not to, I personally think we should abolish the police as well. We think, you know, like that these people are there to protect us. And they are not. They're there to hunt all of us. Like everyone is a potential criminal to these people. That's what they've been informed by. And to circle back to the beginning of the show, the people that they've been trained by are the Israeli police. So it's like, this is just like a never ending cycle of honestly evil. Like what I just watched with all of you that's evil. It's evil. It's not like a whoopsie daisy. Like it's evil.
No, and they're doing it on purpose. I think if there's any people out there, because of course we know the right is saying, well, by virtue of the fact that you're here, even if you're in immigration proceedings, but you're not a citizen, that means you're a criminal. Well, in fact, ICE is no longer going after criminals. It's been since 2017, since 2018. The internal investigations unit of ICE that actually goes after cartel leaders, human traffickers, they've refocused. You know what their focus is on? Day laborers, workers. That's what they're doing. They're not actually getting the big kahunas. They're not actually, if there were anything such as migrant crime, they're not going after it. They are going after people like this young woman and her grandmother. And on top of that, we saw a judge was arrested for basically defending the integrity of her own courtroom. But now we've got a mayor who's been arrested. And we just did a story last week that said Tom Homan, Borders or whatever the fuck, was like, yeah, just you wait. We are going to go after mayors. And in fact, they did. So the mayor of Newark was arrested last week while he was, over the weekend, while he was inspecting an ICE facility that he actually goes to every day. By the way, he's been going every single morning. He goes every morning. He went back that afternoon. This is a privately run detention center from Geo Group. He was basically making sure that everything was on the up and up because the city of Newark has cases against Geo Group for the conditions of the detention center. He was not protesting as it was reported. And he was inside the gate of the facility for hours before this happened. Clearly, the call came down and they were like, yeah, arrest his ass. Here is some of that scenes of chaos. So he is in the red tie and the olive coat. I apologize for people who were watching. And if you were listening, there's basically a group of people who are trying to surround the mayor, support him, Mayor Jaz Brisack of Newark. And then there's ICE agents trying to pick off those people. So it's sort of a series of, fascists and people who are city officials, straight up dressed in suits, there to, oversee this, again, a detention facility that is straight up in their city. He was arrested. He was held for 5 hours. He's out, but he still has just like the judge. Where was the justice from? I'm forgetting where she was from. Just like the judge, their cases are ongoing. So Jaz Brisack has still got like pending litigation. They accused him of basically like starting the aggression and trespassing and all this. So they're accusing him. Nothing of the sort, but like, we're here. And of course, it shouldn't be lost on anyone that Newark is a big city. It's also there's a huge black population. Jaz Brisack is black. I mean, I'm just like, maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe it would have been anyone, but I don't think it should be lost.
No, not at all. I mean, in his case, absolutely. And then the judge is a cisgender white woman, it's absolutely people that they believe they can, not just bully, but break, basically,
Right.
And also to me, it's making examples out of people to keep everybody else in line. And then also this pervasive, I think it is an idea, but I do think it is a pervasive, like white supremacist, but also just white idea that like, well, I'm not doing anything wrong, and believing that because these things are happening, there must be something wrong with it. They must be doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Which is why like putting people in handcuffs and arresting them on television, they're guilty, and then people just, whether they are aware of the fact that they're making that decision in their minds, they're making it, And so if I just stay on the right side of the law, quote unquote, then everything will be fine.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom would never. Like, I would really like to see Gavin Newsom get arrested.
Yeah, he's not going to leave his house.
No, right. He's not going to leave
his
new podcast studio. Exactly.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
I mean, it's why you don't see that, you know, I can't remember if it was the senator or congressman that went to, thank God, went to El Salvador. Like, he's not getting arrested, you know. I mean, they're diminishing him. They're doing everything they can, but, and eventually there will be white men that are arrested for this. Sure, and that's when people will start to go, oh, shit.
Exactly. And the lower, so to speak, hanging fruit are like, okay, we can go after a mayor, right? But okay, a governor, a senator, you know, Congress people visiting, like Ayanna Pressley visiting Rumeysa Öztürk while she was detained, like might not want to do that. That's going to cause more of a splash than this mayor that, you know, now we've heard of. But relatedly, you know, this is all about suspending due process, suspending, you know, obviously suspending immigration law is also what's happening because the immigrants that are being detained, to say nothing of course, people being detained for freedom of speech, are already in the system, are appearing to their regularly scheduled court appearances, and are then being swept up in that moment. These are law-abiding people who live not in the shadows, who are openly saying, yes, I've got asylum claims. Yes, I've got a case here. Yes, I've got a daughter born here. Or yes, I've got a grandchild. Whatever it is, it's like they are not hiding like a criminal, right? Again, not that there's anyone listening to this that even thinks that this is about actual crime. But here's Stephen Miller really putting a finer point on the idea that no, we want to suspend the ability for you to even contest your detention, which is habeas corpus. And here he is saying that.
Well, the Constitution is clear, and that, of course, is the supreme law of the land, that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at.
Okay, so here he is again misquoting the Constitution. Stephen Miller has no idea what he's talking about, but he loves to twist things to benefit fascism and authoritarianism. There is something called the suspension clause, but it says that the privilege of writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. But it also stipulates that the Constitution says only Congress can do this. This is not like a federal executive branch situation where Donald Trump and his brown shirts can unilaterally say who we're going to arrest when Congress could, if they determine that we're being invaded. But we are not being invaded. And the founding fathers, for all the fucking, you know, jerking off that the right likes to do of them, actually put a lot of stopgaps in place to prevent any suspension of habeas corpus. But there he is.
Yeah. I mean, to me, this is just like, oh, this is what Fox News is pumping into people's minds, that like we are being invaded. It's an ongoing, consistent issue. And, you know, I just want to throw out there that there is like this idea, specifically in the white mind of America, but I think it transcends that. I mean, it's like, let's be real.
It's true. It's true. I just love, yeah.
I mean, I just have been in Ohio with, you know, family. It's like this is what we talk about when we're talking about white supremacy, that there is this one idea, which is mine as a white person. We all agree here, right? You know, that if they were all just coming through Ellis Island, then it would be fine. And the issue to me is that all these people are. It's just that Ellis Island isn't Ellis Island anymore. Ellis Island is immigration court, immigration law. Exactly. The process that they are lawfully and to the best of their ability on the day doing.
Yep.
And we're not talking about that. We're not talking about, this is what immigration law looks like, you know, but that's all on purpose. And I don't know that we really can at this point. You know, the point is that white people, like we were seeing in that video, and again, in a blue state, and I am really not trying to prioritize white people. I'm just trying to have, as a white person, the discussion that like white people, we have to put our bodies into this. It's not just about voting. It's not about having the right team and thinking the right things. We actually have to be in action. Like I saw the neighbors of those families taking video, screaming, being there, putting your body on the line, you know, like putting the privilege that we do have on the line, because enough of us do, then these things will change.
Yes.
You know. So I mean, to me,
and that's
you know,
what the mayor, that's what the mayor was calling for. Speaking of,
Yes.
you know, Jaz Brisack, he was like, you know, if more people could come up and stand up, because, you know, there was folks encircling him, but if there was 4 times the number of folks encircling him, you know, maybe he would have been unarrested. We saw that happen. Shout out to USC. You know, they unarrested some students during their occupations and encampments for Palestine. You know, it happens. And you're right. Like, I think if you can afford to do so, meaning you have legal status, and you've got white privilege, then that can be a huge help. And that's what the call is for, because I totally agree with you. This is not about 2026. This is about right fucking now.
Right now. Like, good luck. You know what I mean? Like, good luck voting this stuff out. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to take some time to, but I just, you know, we are going to have to do that, especially if you're white and you're cisgender, you know, like, I know a lot of trans people who are putting their lives on the line for this stuff. And they are in danger, you know, just as in danger, but that's precisely why they're doing it, you know, and I guess I speak to these things as like a white person, like, you are also in danger more so than you realize. And it's not like in this sort of, what's that Handmaid's Tale way, like already happening, you know, it's already like, if they're suspending it for somebody, they've already suspended it for you. Like, the democracy of this country is not in danger. It's gone. You know, and it was gone when we owned people, you know.
No shit. I'm not sure we ever had it.
In creation. Like, I do believe it's possible. It's just like, I think you have to believe it's possible, as opposed to like, oh my God, it's crumbling. It's like,
we're still on the dark side of Jim Crow. I mean, we're still in the sunken place as a country, and we've never gotten out of it. We never had a real reconstruction. We've never made any, you know, descendants of the slave trade whole. We've never actually created real equity in this country. So, you know,
indigenous people honoring treaties, you know,
sure.
Like,
on top of all of that, no, 100%. Let's talk about this before I let you go, River, because I'm excited. It's sort of a win, but let's talk about Maine. Remember back in February, Donald Trump had his governor's luncheon. He invited all these governors right after he signed this executive order that established only 2 genders. And he got the ire of Maine, or sort of, you know, he's gotten Maine in his craw. Because there was a post from Representative Laurel Libby of a trans student athlete on her legislative Facebook page, right? The post went viral. Trump saw it and singled out Maine because Maine does allow trans people to participate in sports. And he said this to her, and she spoke back where she said, "I'll see you in court."
Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal
Well,
laws.
we are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it, because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply, because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one.
Okay, so in fact, there was an attempt to rescind school lunches to the state of Maine after all of this happened, over specifically the trans inclusivity in sports. The Trump administration basically backed down. They weren't able to withhold school lunches, so that's why Janet Mills had this to say later on. This is last week about this victory.
2 months ago, I stood in the White House, and when confronted by the President of the United States, I told him I'd see him in court. Well, I did see him in court, and we won. I am so pleased to say that Aaron Fry's able representation of the state of Maine has resulted in a binding agreement by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins and all of her staff, whereby they agree to refrain from freezing, terminating, or otherwise interfering with the state of Maine's access to USDA funds allocated to any official or agency or department of the state of Maine based on alleged violations of Title IX.
So this is huge. Like, I think it's huge. There's obviously more because Trump is still trying to sue the state of Maine for the violation of this, like, only two genders, interpretation of Title IX. But at least they can't withhold funding, which is what Trump is trying to do and what their sort of like anti-trans crusade has come to. Reminder, there are fewer than 10 10 trans people who publicly identify as trans who compete in the NCAA. 5 out of 510,000, 500,000 athletes. This is a non-issue. Last year, Democrats voted to, however, kill a transgender refuge bill protecting trans people fleeing unsafe states from prosecution. So the point is, Maine's not out of the woods. Like, the Democrats have actually fallen in line with some Republicans and are like, yeah, we're not going to be a refuge for trans people. This month, 2 new bills, one about trans sports in Title IX, along with 6 others more broadly about civil rights protections and gender-affirming care were discussed. Basically, Republicans are trying to use Maine's time in the limelight to be like, yeah, we're the worst. We're going to keep on being the worst for trans people. But it's, it's a start. Pam Bondi is, excitedly saying, I don't care if it's 1 athlete. I don't care if it's 2. I don't care if it's 100. We're going to sue Maine over these policies, again, of including the imagined or real transgender infiltration of something they don't give a fuck about anyway, which is women and girls sports. River.
Well, how much time do you have, Francesca?
Right? Take it away.
I mean, I'm glad that they won. I'm glad that this mayor is doing, or I'm sorry, governor, pardon
Governor,
me.
yeah.
Because it really is about protecting your constituents. It's really about the people who elected you. It's not about the small numbers. Like, I think we do have to keep these things in perspective, but ultimately, like, I think we have to continue to bang the drum that, like, these are people.
Yeah.
Like people are people and people have rights. Like, do we believe that all people have rights? Yeah. It's like, does 1 person have rights or does 100 people have rights? Like, that's what we're getting down to. And I personally believe, like, I this is just my own belief system on Title IX, that it didn't go far enough. And we're now living in that. We're now living in the repercussions and the consequences of being willing as people to say, yeah, women are less than, actually. Yeah. We're not equal. We'll be separate, but equal. Like, it literally is separate, but equal. And
on top of that, Title IX, the any complaints that anyone would lob and bring under Title IX protections for equal funding, with, in terms of women in sports, that would go through the Department of Education, which is now currently being completely gutted. So it's just like, here we're having, again, it's all just this like imaginary conversation, but I totally agree with you that, like, and this is where I've stood on this issue, is like, I don't care if it's imagined or not. I stand with the ability for trans people to participate in sports, no matter what the level. I don't give a fuck like that, because that's a human, that is a right.
Because do women have a right to participate in sports?
Right.
That's still up for debate at this point, because Title IX didn't say boys and girls play sports together. I'm so sorry. You have to let them play sport. If they want to play with you, they get to play with you. But they were willing to say, okay, girls play softball, girls don't play football, blah, 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 blah. Now look at a college football, whatever, their gym and all that stuff. Girls, trans or cisgender, don't have access to that.
Yeah.
They don't have access to that across the country. But then also, depending on your state, look at what those boys have versus the boys over here.
Sure.
So to me, you instead of Title IX just being willing to take whatever, you say, no, everybody gets equal funding. Everybody gets equal access to sports, because sports are a public good.
Yeah.
They're not what a capitalistic society is turned them into, which is, you're good at it, you get to play. Everybody else, sit down.
Right. And anytime obviously the same people who bash trans people and trans athletes, anytime you talk about, equal pay, they're always like, well, it's not profitable to actually like watch women's soccer. So like they would get the Nike ads if it was profitable. And you're like, see, you are so bad faith about this, and you're totally right about like the, it's all just, like what's going to make you more money.
Right.
Meanwhile,
which is funny that you said women's soccer, because that is the reason we even watch soccer in this country, is the women's national team from the 90s. But like, it's not, I mean, it's all smoke and mirrors to me, because the conversation is only about trans women. It's not about trans men.
Right.
I talk about this all the time on stage, and people laugh, and I'm like, why are you laughing? Oh, because you think women are not good at sports, because you think a trans man is technically a woman, and then you think a trans woman is technically a man, and none of it is true. We're just biologically people. We're not biologically anything other than people.
And the root of it is just like raging misogyny and transphobia.
Raging misogyny. Yeah. Because here's something that's real, something that's actual, is that a trans woman at the same age as a cisgender woman who has had gender affirmation surgery has less testosterone in her body than that cisgender woman does. So if you believe that testosterone gives you an advantage, trans women do not have that advantage that you think is true. I'm not saying that it does, but if you think that that's true, it's actually not true.
Right.
So it's none of this, but you and I both know that this is just an effective way to play political theater, and I mean, it's just a strongman fascist argument, to take away from people. We should be feeding children,
exactly. Oh, and we're gonna suspend your school lunches over it. As Laverne Cox, who's been on the show a number of times, always talks about, when the permission structure that anti-trans legislation gives to taking away rights from all people. Like, look at what's happening in immigration. This is not about law-abiding, non-law abiding. This is not about criminals. This is about simply locking people up. This is about mostly brown people. This is just about immigrants writ large, including citizens, like children who've been taken away and deported.
Absolutely. I mean, well, to me, it's whether it's trans people, whether it's immigrants, whether it's black people, it's become criminal is an illusion in this country. And it is a class at this point, Yes. And so I guess I know I got to go, but like, I would just really, really offer for people to investigate their own relationship to what is and is not a criminal. Like, we are all basically criminals at some point in our lives. And so why do criminals need to be punished to the extent that we currently punish them? At this point, it is for profit. And that's incredibly alarming and evil and awful. It's not a society. It's definitely not civilized.
No, but perhaps it is,
and civilization is bad. Exactly.
Right. I mean, it's creating scapegoats, because fascists need scapegoats, and that's what's really critical to them to maintain their control.
100%.
Thank you so much, River Butcher. Where can people find you, see you live?
Yeah, you can. I mean, all my shows are on my website, which is riverbutcher.com. I do update that now, so thank you so much. And I'm posting things to Instagram mostly. I'm sometimes on TikTok. I think my TikTok is the River Butcher, I think.
Love it.
But my Instagram is @Riv Butcher. That's where I do most of my stuff. I do read it like a boomer at this point. But yeah, that's where I'm mostly at.
Riv Butcher.
I have a Blue Sky. I don't really use it, but just find
you gotta get on the Blue Sky.
I'm on it. I just don't really look. I had to literally detox off of Twitter at a point. So
word. True. River, always a pleasure. I love having you on. Come back soon, please.
I will.
And everybody go see River this summer. Do yourself a favor, support live comedy. I know it's rough out there, but you will not be disappointed. And now, speaking of not being disappointed, someone who has done incredible work, specifically co-founding the Starbucks Workers United, or Starbucks Workers United, excuse me. Also working with organizing committees at companies ranging from Ben & Jerry's to Tesla. And they have a new book called Get on the Job and Organize. It is out now. Please welcome Jaz Brisack. Hey,
Hi there.
Jaz.
Thanks so much for having me to be back.
So good to have you back. Thank you for hanging on and being here. I'm really excited to have you on. You've been up to so much good since we last spoke. You've got a new book out called Get on the Job and Organize. Can you just tell me, like, what is this? What was your inspiration? I'm assuming obviously you're an organizing background, but what are you calling for? Tell me about the book.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote it because I think people don't understand how to organize a union in their own workplace, it seems like this really complicated, kind of secretive process, and not something that's easily accessible or that people can like really see themselves in. And so I wanted to demystify both the practice of organizing your own workplace, but also the tactic of salting, and which means getting a job with the goal of organizing it, which is something that I did at Starbucks. It's something that was foundational to the labor movement, from the beginning of the 1900s to the present, but it's not something that we're very good at talking about. And so I wanted people to be able to understand what it is, and also understand, if you have a job, you can organize it. If you can get a job, you can organize that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so you started in Buffalo, and I think when you were last on, I think you were either fired within a week, or like it was right around the time that there was retaliation for your organizing. But I don't think I knew that you specifically got a job to then help organize the first Starbucks union effort in the country. Talk to me about what went into that thought process. Like, what led you to do that? And why do you think that more people maybe should be inspired to do something like that in the year 2025? This practice has been around for decades and decades.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I didn't have any exposure really to unions or the labor movement. I was a history nerd, and so I got really into the idea of, union history, Eugene Debs, the IWWs, but I thought unions had kind of stopped existing by the 1920s. My knowledge really didn't go into the present. So I ended up going to school in Mississippi. I had a labor journalism professor who was like, "Oh, you should meet my friend." Joe had been writing about the Nissan campaign where the UAW was trying to organize the Nissan factory. I got involved with that campaign doing student solidarity, and I met my organizing mentor, Richard Bensinger, who was also organizing baristas in upstate New York while commuting back and forth between Mississippi and New York working on these campaigns. So I ended up going to upstate New York after we lost the Nissan campaign. I wanted to stay involved with the labor movement. I was still kind of in awe that, oh my God, like this is the coolest thing ever. I can't believe I get to do this. I ended up working on a couple of coffee shop campaigns locally, including one called Spot Coffee, where we won a coffee shop chain in Buffalo and Rochester. And then Starbucks workers started reaching out. There were, a sort of a revolving door of workers who would work at one coffee shop and then go to the other one, friends, roommates, partners, tons of overlap. And so Starbucks workers started getting in touch. Hey, if Spot can do it, can we do it? One of those workers who I was working with got fired, and Starbucks claimed that it was for cussing at work. If Starbucks fired people for cussing at work, they would have 0 workers because everybody cusses at work. But it was a pretext to get rid of someone who was talking union. And so that made me much more interested. I had always been interested in organizing a workplace where I was actually working and understanding what that was like. But that made me more interested in actually getting a job at Starbucks to try to prevent more workers from getting fired when they were trying to start a union campaign.
I mean, I love the way they shoot themselves in the foot of, doing some terrible cover to fire somebody who's clearly like interested in forming a union. And it's like that kind of retaliation is very, it's very galvanizing for first-time organizers who, and so it's kind of like a ripe situation for you to get involved in. A lot has happened in these years, but can you tell me, I know it's like not clear and there's like a patchwork kind of different Starbucks unions, but what is the state of, the union drive within the Starbucks, franchise? I didn't ask, prep you on this, but just give us some sense of where things are at and where they stand.
Yeah, so I mean, Starbucks Workers United is still going strong. There's now getting close to 600 union stores around the country. The campaign, I think, I have a lot of friends who are still deeply involved with bargaining. I guess backing up a little bit, Starbucks ran a scorched earth union busting campaign for about 3 years from when we won our votes at the initial stores in Buffalo through many more years of unionization as workers were kind of slowly inching that number of union stores up. Starbucks initially, bargained in the worst possible faith, and then walked away from the bargaining table altogether. In 2023, after Starbucks Workers United took a stance in solidarity with Palestine, Starbucks faced a global boycott, and workers and consumers obviously stopped going to Starbucks. Entire countries like Malaysia and Turkey were cutting contracts with the company, and eventually that pressure brought Starbucks to the bargaining table. We'd always thought a boycott would be the way that Starbucks would come down. There were always mixed feelings, especially among union leadership, about calling for the boycott. It sort of started by accident through the Palestine solidarity situation and Starbucks' response and retaliation against the union for supporting Palestine. And so they announced about a year ago that they wanted to come back to the table and try to reach an agreement. That was before Trump got elected. I think now they're potentially looking around and thinking maybe they can get away with a return to their union busting. So it kind of remains to be seen. But
that's my next question was about organizing under Trump. But I just wanted to stick with this piece of, we had Professor Eric Blanc, who has this new book, We Are the Union, who basically highlights, organizer like yourself who got involved in what seemed to them or seems on the outside to be a really complicated process of how to organize a union drive. And there's got to be, specific steps and all of this. And then there's folks like yourself and there's, in so many different retail stores around the country who are just kind of doing the damn thing and starting where they are and are winning. And so one of the angles that I love that he talks about, and he really highlights Starbucks in this, is that Starbucks having that sort of liberal veneer of like, yay, we accept like queer people here, yes, this can be like your little like refuge. Also, if you're a consumer, you can come and like hang. And, if you're a student, like we support learning, like things like that, that sort of was used as a way to be like, well, why aren't you actually good when it comes to workers' rights? Why aren't you good when it comes to, fair pay or giving us, more time off or our schedules or all of the, things that we're asking for? And so that was used against them. Whereas we're always sort of like learning or told that like, well, union drives are only based around, like your working class, identity and it's only that, but it's like, it is more than that. It's about like, again, like people are for Palestine and using that as leverage. And so what are sort of maybe mislabeled cultural issues are also very much worker issues. And I feel like the Starbucks drives have proven that.
Yeah, I mean, I think workers understand, and at a range of companies understand, including less woke companies, quote unquote, that the only way we're going to actually have liberation on these other issues, the only way we're going to have environmental justice, the only way we're going to have racial justice, the only way we're going to have trans and queer liberation is to have class-based liberation. And, I think we've seen pink washing attempts and every kind of washing attempts from all these companies for years. I think that's not really fooling. Maybe it never fooled everybody, but I think it's not fooling people, even to the extent that maybe people were attracted to it initially. But it's also true, I think, that companies that have wrapped themselves in this mantle of we're so progressive, we're so wonderful, whether it's Starbucks saying, we don't view you as workers, we think you're partners, or whether it's Ben and Jerry's, which actually did do the right thing and recognize the union. But whether it's Ben and Jerry's being like, we're so wonderful and all of these different issues, we want to participate in general strikes around, the climate crisis. Workers are likely to take that at its word and also view the union as a way to not only hold companies accountable, but to take part in justice movements writ large, which means, you're not going to separate one fight from the other fights. These things are interconnected, and the union has to take part in all of these to live up to the very value of solidarity.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit more about maybe the Ben and Jerry's drive and also Tesla and the stuff you're doing now at Workers United. Yeah, just break that down.
Yeah, so I guess just a quick clarification. I'm actually now, I'm no longer with Workers United. I'm now working mostly with the Inside Organizer School, which is the training program that was the basis of the Starbucks campaign, where we train workers, both SALTs who are going to be getting jobs with the goal of organizing, and non-union workers looking to start an organizing campaign in their workplace, on how to actually get that process going, how to have the greatest chance of success, how to move the process quickly and try to preempt the company's anti-union campaign.
You're a trainer now.
Partly trainer, and then I'm also doing some work with the United Food and Commercial Workers on organizing campaigns, because I love actually being on the ground.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Okay, but so you were at Workers United. What were some of the things that, like you're saying, Ben and Jerry's did the right thing. What's up with Tesla? What's going on? Anecdotally, I think someone who worked at SpaceX watches the program, or watched the program, hopefully they did, or still do, and we're like, but this was before Trump won the election, and we're like, we hate Elon. This is terrible. We actually are good at what we do. He's terrible for our brand. So it's interesting that obviously, and we know Tesla's got a long history of union busting, and horrible workplace practices, racist firing and all this kind of stuff. But any insight you can shed for us on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the playbook that Elon Musk is using against federal workers, trying to gut the federal government, is very much the same playbook that he's used against workers who've tried to organize, whether it's at Tesla or SpaceX, where workers at both companies faced mass firings under orders from Elon. In Buffalo, I was working with workers at the Tesla plant in the autopilot department, who train the AI for self-driving cars. Mm-hmm. We were working together for about a year, trying to, get in touch with people, build a list, build an organizing committee, get ready to launch a union campaign. And these workers were incredible. I mean, they were motivated by every possible factor, ranging from the fact that, they were monitored down to the keystroke. They didn't have time to, even take bathroom breaks and meet the quotas that they were being forced to meet. Those same quotas actually make the product, the AI for the autopilot cars less safe, because workers are forced to, take shortcuts to try to keep up with the workload. And that means that things could be slipping through the cracks. So they wanted more control over the pace, so that they actually had the ability to make it safer. They were very worried about Elon Musk himself. It was becoming increasingly apparent how right-wing, transphobic, et cetera, he was. And this was a very diverse group of workers, very young group of workers. So they went public with an organizing campaign on Valentine's Day, leafleted the plant with Valentine's Day leaflets about, we fight for what we love. The next day, Elon Musk fired 40 workers in retaliation for organizing. And the labor movement, meaning the folks at the very top of the very big unions, which were involved, which were the steelworkers and SEIU and the steelworkers, were more interested in arguing over who got credit, who got control of the campaign. And so the workers ultimately, we were trying to do everything we could on the ground, but the unions at the top didn't have the workers' backs.
I mean, that's an interesting corollary to, discussions we're having with Eric Blanc, that, it seems like the labor movement in its sort of, institutionalized form is not able to adapt to this moment that we're in a lot of ways, in terms of like the worker-led organizing drives, the drives that may not succeed, the ones that are just sort of, but that the energy is there. And, given the sort of top-down clunky nature of a lot of unions, it can be rough. I actually wanted to ask you, I mean, I think it's interesting you mentioned with Trump, and this is the last question, but with Trump and Starbucks being like, let's wait and see, maybe we can give them free Starbucks, just like, Elon Musk will give Donald Trump a Tesla and he'll do an ad for them. We know, I think the NLRB, what is this? I believe it's still inoperable. I mean, unable to actually rule because there's not quorum.
Yeah, I think they're still in a legal process standoff.
Yeah. But I am also interested in, and this is the thing, it's been like, and you don't have to come down on any, like, I'm not looking at you to like throw shade or talk shit, but I am curious because, we have the Seans, right? We've got Sean Fain of the UAW and Sean O'Brien of the Teamsters, and both of them in their different moments have seemed to want to give Donald Trump some credit or play ball. You got Sean Fain out here saying like tariffs could be a good thing. And they're, I was looking at an interview Sean Fain did with some hosts at MSNBC, and they were really talking past each other. I mean, the MSNBC host came off as super elitist and obnoxious and just like didn't understand. Sean Fain is out here like, okay, but I'm trying to get a win for my workers. Where do you see some of these plays to like try to appeal to Trump's, pseudo populist angels here?
I think it's an extremely misguided approach. I think I'd like to clarify, I think union top leadership isn't always, in touch with workers or with the goals of organizing. But I think there are really amazing, folks within labor unions. There's really amazing reform efforts in a lot of unions that are continuing. Obviously, one of the best ways to change the culture of a union is to organize more workers into it. And I think Workers United became a very different organization over the course of the Starbucks campaign because of this influx of new workers with very high expectations of what their union should stand for and believe in. I think it's extremely misguided to try to make a compromise with a fascist. I mean, the labor movement is built on solidarity. Our labor history has been checkered at times. There's always been unions that were, truly trying to organize all workers and, organizing across racial lines, across gender lines, et cetera. And then there's been, unions that were segregated by race, by gender, that were extremely nationalist or, didn't want to organize immigrant workers. And that conflict has been going on for as long as there's been a labor movement in the US.
Yes.
But I think labor unions rely and depend on solidarity. And, an injury to one is an injury to all isn't just a slogan. Like, we actually have to believe that. And we can't make deals with a regime that's trying to go after unions, trying to go after immigrant workers, and, trying to fundamentally strip so many people of our rights. And so I think it's extremely dangerous to go down that path.
I think that's really well said. And, I'm over the weekend also, I mean, the last week of these just heinous ICE raids, farm workers, specifically organizing farm workers, those who, again, trying to, fight for a better workplace and better working conditions, were detained and arrested. I'm not, I know there's Vermont, there were some. I'm trying to quickly scan, but this is a strategy. And so it's like, I definitely agree with you. Like, I understand the sort of self-preservation of wanting to strike a deal with Trump to be kind to your particular industry, UAW specifically. But it's like, it was so disappointing because I'm like, yeah, we're in this moment where like they are coming down on workers. Like, the people being detained are everyone's being detained,
exactly.
Like whether they're outside of Home Depot or whether they're at a meat processing plant or whether they're in a farm. They are attacking workers. And so what we need right now is actual solidarity. And so I'm so glad you said that. And, I think others have also said that on this program, like, this is the boss class we're talking about. Trump is the boss class.
If these are not,
please.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, like, it's a very common union busting tactic for a company to call ICE to try to intimidate undocumented workers or, remove them from the workplace to prevent them from organizing. And I mean, the UAW is trying to get other unions to back them up in a general strike in 2028. But, I don't even know that we have until 2028. Like, that we have to be organizing in solidarity with the most marginalized, who are the people that Trump is going after the most. And so, yeah, everything you're saying.
Yeah. Well, I feel supported now that I've got now that Jazz agrees with me. I love having you on the program. You're fire. You're amazing. You're inspiring. Where can people get your book, and where can people get involved? I mean, where should they get involved? You know, can anyone sign up for the Inside Organizer School? Tell us.
Yes, no, thank you so much for having me. And I am on all social media at Jaz Brisack, and folks can order the book at any local bookstore, ideally a unionized bookstore if there's one near you. And then folks should definitely sign up for the Inside Organizer School. We're about to be posting training dates for the rest of the year around the country, both coasts, one in Nashville, Tennessee. So be on the lookout for that. We would love to have folks come. And we also work with a variety of unions around the country. So if people are interested in organizing their workplace or in potentially getting a job and organizing it, would love to get in touch. So yeah, reach out to me or to the Inside Organizer School, and yeah, would love to help more
Inside
folks
Organizer School. Sorry, you broke up there. I want to salt at Chuck E. Cheese, so my kid gets free Chuck E. Cheese, but I also don't want to deal with that much, germs. I would probably be sick constantly. But I definitely think
you could have such a great Scabby the Rat situation outside of the Chuck E. Cheese.
Dude, Scabby the Rat, right? With like Chuck Entertainment Cheese. Oh, it's right there. Get on the job and organize, standing up for a better workplace and a better world. JazBrisack. Thank you so much, Jazz, for being on. Please take good care. Hope to see you again soon. And thank you all for being here. My God. Love Jazz. They're amazing. I'm going to read some comments and then we're going to F off into this good afternoon. But don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow on Wednesday. I'm excited to be back. I'm like, yay, news. I'm not. But again, this helps me. This helps us. We can all digest it together and we can listen to some smart ass people while we do so. Rachel Atwood says, back to our Israel discussion. Israel is totally self-sufficient, like a house cat. Oh God, don't remind me. My cat is off dry food. Seriously, my cat is the state of Israel. Was deprived her dry food and now she's freaking out. She got my cat got wisdom teeth removed. No, my cat got 4 teeth removed and now she's like, can't eat dry food for 2 weeks. And she's, number one, lost so much weight. So I don't know if you guys don't think it's diet. I'm like, I need to get on her diet, but she's also really obnoxious. But anyway, you're right. Israel's not self-sufficient at all. And that's the point of your joke. Kathy McIntyre, Trans Justice Dragon, thank you for all you do for progressive media and keeping us sane. Thank you, Kathy, for being here. Linda Marks says, Hassan was detained and interrogated for hours while trying to re-enter the U.S. I know that it's an insane story. Hassan Piker, obviously Twitch streamer, massive progressive left media figure, was detained on his way back from France, and he was asked about what stories he covers, who he interviews. This is going to keep continuing, and we will see what kind of chilling effect it has. But we understood this, and make no mistake. I mean, this is the kind of thing that, I mean, I really ducked under the whole Ethan Klein drama for a very long time. But, this is the kind of thing that, like, motherfucking Ethan Klein's not getting stopped. These liberal, crazy Zionists are not getting stopped on their way in. All right? They're chilling. It's the people who speak up for Palestine who are being disappeared off the streets, who are being deprived of seeing the birth of their first child, Mahmoud Khalil, still detained. So it's just incredible. It's incredible the amount of crocodile tears we are supposed to have because from the river to the sea hurts my fifis. Big Shoe, thank you so much for the super chat. Les Watt says, I have a stinking cold, Fran. You're making it not so bad. Well, thank you for the super chat, and I hope you feel better. Lots of fluids and rest and all those things. Hypno Amber says, I was a competitive ice skater in the 80s and 90s, and I remember the girls had to fight to play on the boys' hockey team because there were no girls' teams. Let everyone play sports. Indeed. It is a slippery slope. That's the whole point. They're going to come after, they're coming after already Title IX protections, if they ever existed, as River was saying. Sparks says, not enough people know the history of Angel Island and SF and what Asian American immigrants were subjected to in the mid-1900s. Yes, I visited there. California State Park that deserves support if you're in the Bay Area. Yeah, it's great. Speaking of state parks, I mean, this is what they want to do. Yeah, it's like, what if we reintroduced an incredibly inhuman way of dealing with immigrants again? Or inhumane. Rachel Atwood says, so over white trash jokes to say I'm not racist. I think I understood that. That was based on sort of our red-blue discussion. Rachel Atwood also says, Ben from Ben & Jerry's was recently on Tucker Carlson. We'll see about that. I don't love that. Oh, Ben, what are you doing? You're helping Tucker more than he's helping you. The instructor says elderly and disabled people in wheelchairs are protesting at the Capitol against proposed Medicaid cuts or being removed from Capitol Police. Once again, they always do that. It's almost like they're the fucking best of us, because we've seen this multiple times. We saw this when Donald Trump was about to cut Obamacare. We've seen this at any time. So we'll definitely talk about that on the show tomorrow. I love it. I support anyone who's getting arrested, especially, my God, if you are in a wheelchair and you're putting yourself in harm's way. We've seen how these fascists operate. You are true heroes. Cyborg Elf Gaming over on Twitch. I got fired for cussing at work after getting injured, and because I tried to get the company to follow state laws. Oh, okay. So cussing at work is just a known union busting / I want workers' comp deflection move. Vetras Varna, what's up? UMass Boston is one of the only universities left with a labor studies major. FYI, it was my minor. Is my friend teaches labor studies, not at Boston though. Hypno Amber says, yay, I got to go on Patreon because Gypsy Vegan gifted me a sub. I'm so excited to talk to everyone. Yeah, that is right. Gifting a sub over on, did you get a Patreon sub? You can also gift people Patreon subs. And Kowalchuk, yes, your test went through. Thank you so much. Let's get to the fart song and thank all the patrons at $10 or more. Truly, like going solo, not having TYT, Zateo's show ended. You know, your support goes a real long way for me and our awesome team. Paige Omek, Maximilian in spirit, Brent Godin, the beautiful Brent, and Andy Vasoyan. Your support helps me and them put on this awesome show. And with that, let's start the fart song. Michael Reed for becoming a patron at $10 or more. Eric Danielson, Anna Derby. No upgrades, but that's okay because Kathy Roth became a Substack subscriber. Jager Larson giving out 7 community subs on Twitch. Twin Brian resubscribed. Jager08 Larson also resubscribed. Yes, Ron resubscribed. Thank you so much. Prime Day. A Prime today, so send some Bezos bucks. Thank you, Mouse and a Dragon Onesie and Eric77 the Red. Appreciate you all for re-upping. Snack Panther became a member over on YouTube. So did, or Sam Wiley gave out a sub. I hope somebody gobbled that up. Thank you guys all so much for your support. We're streaming Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Twitch, and I'll figure out Substack maybe tomorrow. And until tomorrow, fight the power. Fuck the patriarchy. Free Palestine, and don't just bitch about it. Be about it. Bye-bye.